Hey everyone, welcome to Co-Medicine. I'm your host, Dr. Sarah Boston. We've got a great show for you, especially if you happen to have a vagina or a vulva. But even if you don't, you will learn things about the vagina and the vulva and Kegels. And you will learn some amazing statistics because we have a pelvic floor physiotherapist who lives in Scotland, in Edinburgh, and she has developed 2 fringe shows that teach women and actually anyone who wants to learn what is going on down there. What is normal? I learned some shocking statistics about vaginal prolapse that are going to haunt me. I'm going to be honest, you guys. They're going to haunt me forever. So get ready to listen, get ready to do some Kegels, get your life in order, people. We do not have to be incontinent. That is what I learned today. We don't have to live like this. Okay, I'm getting really passionate, but I loved this chat with Elaine Miller. Welcome, Elaine, to Co-Medicine. It is so wonderful to have you here.
It's really nice to meet you.
I think you're like one of the most perfect guests for this podcast. Like you really embody what I'm trying to promote or share with the world. So thank you. I know I a little bit stalked you.
I don't think you did.
No,
I don't think
okay.
you did. I think I was just incompetent at replying to things. But
no, I was just
that's
like,
definitely a me problem, not you.
I was like, she's perfect. I can't let this go. I just cannot let this go. And also your comedy touches on, I think we're similar age. So like your comedy touches on things that I do when I do stand-up. So I always like to start on Co-Medicine with the day job, and yours is very intermixed with your comedy side. But can you just explain, I don't know if you say pelvic physiotherapist or pelvic floor physiotherapist, but can you just explain kind of what that is and how you get into that in your training?
Yeah, some of my professional peers object to me calling myself a Fanny physio, but that's is exactly what I do.
Yeah.
So pelvic floor muscles are the same as any other muscle, and physios deal with muscles and form and function. So I don't think it's weird that you'll end up with Fanny physios as a consequence of that. But originally, I graduated a million years ago and went into sports, first of all, mainly because I thought that's what you should do. And it would impress my dad, which it did. And you got really cool stuff like foreign travel and free trainers. And I was lapping it up. I really liked it and I was quite good at it. You have to be competitive if you're going to work in sports. It's probably quite a good idea if you care. If they win or lose. I am not competitive. I really couldn't get my head around, if somebody's injured, they're not fit, never mind. You're not going to the Olympics. Boo-hoo, that's a shame. So it's not compatible with being a sports physio. You actually have to bend the rules so that this person's dream can be fulfilled, even if it might be a risk.
For the long term. I have observed that, again, I don't follow sports very well, but sometimes there's someone who's had a really bad injury and then they're back. And I'm like, how?
What for?
And how? And is it just kind of because, we repaired your fracture, get out there. And it's there's a risk that something bad is going to, I guess I don't know about this world, but I have just thought that just as a veterinary surgeon, I'd be like, they're back. That was 2 weeks ago. And now they're back playing hockey. And I'm like, how is that possible? But I guess it's the drive. I guess that's their career and that's all they want to do. And I guess they don't care when they're 45 or they don't think about that, I guess, or I don't know. I guess I don't understand it, but.
Yeah, sports psychology is really interesting. I would say that these people maybe, for a long and balanced life, maybe dial down the obsession, but you don't get to be a world-class athlete unless you are able to be obsessive. It's just a requirement. And the problem wasn't them, the problem was me, because I'm I want nothing to do with this.
Because your job was to inject something or do something or whatever you do to get them like a horse.
Yeah. And there's pressure from the person themselves who wants to compete, obviously. It's their dream. That's their whole life. Yeah. And the coach and the sponsors and all of this. And I'm there going, nah.
No, they need to rest.
Not fit.
Wow.
Yeah. So
that's
tough.
It
was just a conflict. The solution was for me to not work in sports. So no more free trainers for me. Okay. So I was doing backs and necks and stuff and really liking it. And my boss did pelvic health physio. So she started giving me some training. I was fascinated by what went on behind this door, because normally in physio, you're just there's plinths next to each other with curtains between them. And she had a door.
Oh, because it's getting kind of...
What are you doing?
Some personals happening, yeah.
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 So she gave me some training and I was really interested in it because the women that come, they get better and they get better really quickly. And then they're delighted and they tell you how good you are. And that's really nice. You didn't get that in sports. So that was fine. I sort of tinkered around with a bit of that. And then I had 3 babies in 4 years, which was ill-advised. And I make a joke on stage about it being alcohol related as well. And everybody sort of goes, yeah. Because there's no need for that in this day and age. After that, the sort of science of continence just became really interesting.
Of course. Yeah. You're like, this is, yeah. Yeah.
And I was just like a case study of slightly pishy women that I just ignored it. And, I was busy. There was a lot going on in the house in the day. So I just ignored it until it started to dominate what I was like the rest of my life. So I got around to doing what I should have been doing in the first place, of sorting out my pelvic floor. And I was genuinely amazed that it worked. Like, I don't know, maybe I'm not a very deep thinker, but I did what I was telling other people to do and they got better and I got better and it blew my mind. So I landed up specialising in pelvic health after that. I think it's quite common that physios that go into pelvic health have usually either had a problem themselves or they know somebody who has. So now I'm obsessive about pelvic floors instead of sports.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's really important. And I do think it is something, it's very pushed aside, or women don't talk about it, or they don't share that. It's very embarrassing to have urinary incontinence, right? Like that's just an embarrassing thing. And people might joke about it a little bit, but not really. So yeah, I mean, I know a lot of your push is awareness because people don't know that they can just get help and maybe they could get better. They don't have to live with this problem that is almost like a dark secret problem,
Yeah, totally. It's a real taboo subject, and you're right, women will make jokes about it. It's almost like a little code that they exchange. They often use trampoline as the sort of key to the discussion, like, oh, you're having a kid's birthday party with a bouncy castle. Oh, I'll not be going on there. And then everybody knows that she's disclosing that actually she's got a problem. And they all understand the problem because most of them have experienced it as well, but they won't talk about it really frankly. And I find that very frustrating because if we can get these women into clinic, they get better. But it takes an average of 7 years for a woman to come to speak to her GP or somebody about it on average.
How long to get better?
Oh, not long. So the data is that if a woman's got stress incontinence, when she wets herself, if she laughs or coughs or sneezes, and she does pelvic floor exercises 3 times a day for 3 months, 3/4 of them will be dry just with that alone. They don't actually need management, they just need education. And if the remainder, if they come into physio, 6 sessions of physio is an 83% cure rate. So it's a great field to work in because they get better.
Something that's so awful that can get better. That's really cool. Okay. Well, I hope someone's listening. I hope lots of women are listening right now.
Don't put up with it.
Well, okay. I'm just going to ask like a bit of a technical question and then we'll move on to the funnier stuff. But like, what's happening? It's usually women after childbirth, but why are women like literally what is happening down there? What happened?
Well, it's not just women that have had babies. Like that's the sort of narrative. But there's girls, young girls, like 15-year-olds that have giggle incontinence. It's quite common where they giggle, 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 and then they have frank loss of urine. And those girls stop playing sport and it affects when they become sexually active, it impacts on that because they're really anxious and they worry about, for all age groups, they worry about disgracing themselves in an intimate moment. So what they tend to do is just not have sex. And it's not just urinary incontinence, like 10% of people, males and females together as a group, they have problems controlling their poo. And that's a problem. There's nothing more shameful in life than that. You don't want to be that person. So the way that impacts on their lives is enormous. It just interferes with everything. And it's more complicated usually. Usually the reasons that it's happening are more complex than just simple stress incontinence, the one where you laugh or cough or sneeze. They absolutely should not put up with it. There's loads of help available. So normally what happens is, after childbirth, the pelvic floor is weak, so it's just not strong enough to support the organs. So if you laugh and there's a downward pressure in your bladder, it's going to leak a bit. But the muscles themselves, they don't just get weak, they can be over tight as well. A lot of athletes have pelvic floors that don't relax. So they can become weak and they can get, not weak, they're non-relaxing. So they're not able to do their job properly because they don't have full range. So they wet themselves and they often have a lot of pelvic pain. It's just really vague and weird and hard to place. And then vaginal prolapse affects about 50% of women over the age of 50, whether they've had kids or not. So
50%.
50% over the age of 50.
Okay, I'm sorry.
And most of them don't know. Yeah. So if you do, there's a really good long-term study that is showing that if women do pelvic floor exercises and they don't get constipated, they can manage their vaginal prolapse without surgery for, potentially decades. I think it's in its 15th or 16th year, this study.
I can't believe that statistic.
Yeah, it's shocking, right? Like
50% of women over 50 have a prolapsed vagina.
Yep.
50.
And because it's not a lot of symptoms. And what's even worse is the care pathway for most health infrastructures say that you don't tell the woman about it until it's actually symptomatic. So we would leave it till the whole thing falls out and she's dragging her cervix along behind her and then refer her for surgery. I'm not happy about this.
I know you're not, but I'm just thinking, like, how do you know if your vagina's prolapsed? Like, there's so many women. Like, that's not even... Okay.
Well, most of it's asymptomatic. Most of them don't really have many symptoms because vaginas aren't, this is going to upset all the men, vaginas don't have a lot of sensation. So you can have quite a lot of shifting of the organs and it doesn't really, there's a lot of deep pressure sensors, but there's not light touch. So if something's moving around down there, you don't really know. So so the symptoms of prolapse are like a heavy ache or a dragging sensation, difficulty with peeing and pooing, either actually getting it out or controlling it. And if you have one, don't panic, but get yourself to a Fanny physio and sort you out.
Get it back up there. Okay. All right. Okay.
Ta-da!
Ta-da! Get it back. Okay. So, this just makes me laugh because I think I shared with you, I have a whole set on like perimenopause and I have a whole set on the perifit and I talk about the trampoline too. So anyway, okay. I love that you're doing this. I love that you're in this field. So how did the comedy, I mean, except for the obvious, half a woman vagina's prolapse if they're over 50. I mean, that's not funny, but it kind of is. But how did the comedy come into play for you and sort of this dual purpose of using comedy to educate?
It was a patient. So I had a hobby of doing stand-up at the time. And I had a woman in clinic she was from Glasgow in Scotland. And if you're from Glasgow, you have to be funny. Like it's just a cultural thing. They're all hilarious. And so she was telling me about how she had wet herself on her doorstep in front of her neighbour. It's a dreadful thing to happen to anybody, that you just have, full loss of bladder control. It's perfectly obvious what's happened. She's embarrassed, her neighbour's embarrassed. It would be a terrible situation to be in. But she was using humour as a self-deprecating way. So she was trying to be funny as she told me the story. And she was. It was genuinely entertaining the way that she framed it. So I said to her, she knew I did stand up, and I said to her, do you mind if I use that to build a set? And I did it at a local comedy club. It was only a 10-minute set or something. And I didn't say this was my job. I just said that this had happened to me.
Yeah.
And afterwards, 4 women came up to me separately and said, yeah, me too, sister. And I thought that's really interesting because if it takes a long, long time to get women to talk to their GP about it, and most never do, then why are these women talking about it in a basement bar on a Friday night? Yeah. So I decided that the obvious thing to do was to write a fringe show about pelvic floors. That would solve the problem because, they're not going to come to clinic, so I might as well take what I would tell them in clinic and turn it into an hour-long show. And the reason I did that was because I did far too much gin and I live in Edinburgh. So the world's biggest art festival is on my doorstep. Yeah. And to be honest, a lot of people that live in Edinburgh don't go to the Edinburgh Fringe because it's a bit of a pain.
Yeah, it's like Vegas. It's like people who live in Vegas don't go to the Strip, right? It's too much. Yeah. Yeah.
So I threw myself into a situation that I really had no right to be in, and it worked. So it was a bit of a happy accident. I think if I hadn't been tipsy and cross, because I did a day in clinic where there was it just felt like a series of patients coming in that I'd put up with situations for decades and there was no need for it. If only they had known that there was help available, then their marriage wouldn't have broken down because they wouldn't have stopped having sex, because the impact on people's lives is enormous. So I was human and finishing off some alcohol and had a great idea. And the problem with the fringe is there's no like standard, there's no audition. So all you have to do is fill out the form before you get hold of your senses and you're in. So
okay, so
when I sobered up, I was like, oops.
I would love to do the Edinburgh Fringe, but I did a smaller fringe in a town called Guelph last summer, and I just signed up for the Ottawa Fringe. And sometimes you have to just be signed up because I mean, I shouldn't admit this, but I don't fully know what I'm doing in June. But it's like, well, I'm a deadline person, like, so now you're in the Fringe, so you better get it written. And so did you? I know you had the idea, but how much of it had you written before you signed up for the Fringe?
None.
But you knew that. You knew what you were going to try to do.
Some of the comedians were appalled at my decision because you're supposed to be going for 10 years before you would have an hour's material, and what do you think you're doing? Because I hadn't ever done anything like that before. I'd been doing stand-up maybe for, I don't know, 4 years, maybe something like that, not long. And it was very peripatetic, like it was just, open spots. But I was sure that it would work because it was work, it was my job.
Yeah.
And lots of clinicians, I'm sure this is the same in veterinary science, lots of clinicians use humour as a communication tool with their patients. That if you're delivering difficult news and people are feeling upset, you can use humour in a way that's not mocking, but actually helpful.
Yeah,
so,
I could see that very much with what you're doing because these women are, it's not only an embarrassing subject, but they're in a very, I'm assuming they're
really
pants down, they're naked and you're looking at their vagina that's may or may not be falling out apparently. And they're talking about being in, like they're talking, like that Scottish woman talking about completely peeing her pants in front of someone. That's mortifying, right? And if you don't, how are you going to do anything but let them laugh about it? Because what else are you going to do? Just be like, oh, that's mortifying. Like you must replay that in your mind. I mean, if you can't find a way to laugh about that, again, this just buries it down. And all these women who running around with their vaginas falling out. Oh, I'm so horrified. Okay. Actually, no, I want to ask you, can you just, maybe you can't, if you can't, it's okay. But can you do a little bit of what you did as the Glaswegian woman who peed herself? Like how you would have just framed that?
Oh gosh. Well, so I called the show Gusset Grippers.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, is gusset a North American term?
Fanny's not either, actually. So yeah.
Well, you get it wrong, don't you? I think this is my mission to correct the way in America they use fanny to mean your bum, like fanny pack, and that's just factually incorrect. A bit like putting Z's in places that they don't belong because it should be an S.
Fair.
So in Scotland, in the UK, fanny's a slang term for female genitalia.
Okay.
And your gusset is, I think it's a dressmaking term. So it's like a strip of fabric that you would put between two bits of fabric. So the way that pants are made, like underwear, knickers.
Oh, yeah.
The wee cotton bit is the gusset.
Actually, I had to look that up for a stand-up set. I do stand-up about going to the doctor and how when the doctor leaves the room and I change, that I have to hide my underwear. Like, and I realize every woman does that. Like I talk about how we take it and roll it and then roll our pants around it. Yeah. And I started doing that and actually had no idea if anyone else does that. And everyone's like, I do that. And I'm like, why do we do that? No one wants anyone to see the gusset, which is the little cotton thing. It's embarrassing.
I know exactly what you mean. And this person that you're removing your underwear so that they can do their job is about to see in all your glory. So what difference does it make?
Stirrups, everything. But I always say that, but not my underwear.
But the question is, why does the clinic not provide you with a clearly marked little box and a little bag into which you can put your underwear and tidy it away out the way?
That's
then
true.
that would solve the problem.
Yeah.
It's not a woman being shy about intimate bits of their dress. It's that the clinics don't understand what women need and want. And that would be really easy fix.
That's true. All right. We're going to, so I also, the other thing about fanny packs, I'm in Canada, right? Canadian, but I was traveling in Thailand and I was traveling with a bunch of British people and I had a little, it's just like a waist bag, but we call it a fanny pack. Yeah. Oh, they loved it. I kept saying, oh, it's in my fanny pack. It's in my fanny. And they were just like, they just thought that was the best because I kept saying that. I kept saying my fanny pack or it's in my fanny or Anyway, so that's why I learned what fanny means. Okay. So your Gusset Gripper show was is it 2019 that it was at the Fringe? Is that right?
No, before that. It must have been 2013, 2014 maybe.
Oh, okay.
I think 14.
Okay. And then you toured it after that
So it did well for a lunchtime show in a basement bar that's not near the main venues. It did do well, and I'd like to think that's because I'm hilarious, but it's because I'm local. So I knew that if I sent a poster around all of the nurseries and soft plays and all the places like the walking groups, all the places that running groups where women were,
Yeah.
I sent all of them a promotional poster saying the show's on. And they came because I knew that once you get women talking about pelvic floors, then they will tell all their friends about it because that's what happens in work.
Like you get referrals from other women who've had help from
so
you.
If I could get one woman to buy into the idea of coming to see this weird show, because it won there's some unofficial awards usually every year in the Edinburgh Fringe, and that year there was the weirdest show of the Fringe Award was won by me.
Wow.
Go me, because everybody just thought it was odd, but they came. And so the room capacity, I think, was 60. I mean, what was I doing as a newbie with a room that's at 60? What an idiot. But it was never empty. And at weekends, there was like 120 people in that room. It broke all fire rules.
Was it 100% women or what was it?
No, there was a lot of, actually, there was a lot of gay men came because at the end of it, I have this vulva suit that I put on and my face is the clitoris and I do a wee song about vaginal prolapse.
Really?
It's got sequins and everything. It's great
Amazing.
fun. So I was flyering with the suit on, and then this sort of like group of big gay bears were like, oh my God, can I have my photo taken to show my mum with me with my face and a vulva? Like it was sweet.
Yeah. No, that's
so
awesome.
Then they sent their friends and things. Men are interested in vulvas, even if they're not interested sexually.
Yeah, because it's kind of mysterious, right? Like what is that? You know, where is that clitoris? So
it got picked up because it was busy. It's a strange beast, Edinburgh Fringe, but there's lots and lots of industry people that are trying to sniff out the next thing.
Yeah.
So they look for patterns and people talk. So they're like, this weird show's getting lots of folk. Okay. So then reviewers came and I got 3 stars, which I was quite chuffed with. Like the feedback was good, but I was a novice. I didn't really know what I was doing. So 3 stars I thought was pretty respectable. And it got the attention of some of the big venues who like took it on really. So I did it a few years in a row, and eventually it was sold out and had 5 stars. And it was interesting to do it over, I think it was 3 years, because it got better. Like you just have to hone it and work it. Initially, there was a big section that was like a lecture. It was like explaining things like you would in clinic. Yeah. So that all got cut because it's just not funny enough. And because it did well, one Fringe like sold out 5 stars, go me. Then they asked if I go to Australia, and I won the comedy award in Fringe World, which I'm really pleased with.
Yeah, congratulations for that. So that is amazing. So like as you developed it, did you work with a director or how did you hone it, or was it just you practicing it? Oh no,
like,
really?
I'm really interested because you have guests on that all say that, or many guests say that they've been in a course and they've really put a lot of effort into it. And I find that really intimidating because I'm like, is that what you're supposed to do? No, I never.
Well, it's working for you, so I don't know what you're not supposed
to.
I mean, just a lot of people talk about solo shows or Fringe shows about you need to get a director. And the one I just did, I had, he's a friend, he's very involved in theater. And so he kind of helped me, was my director, just to have someone to work the show with and practice with and help me with the technical aspects of things. But you just, like, who made your vagina vulva costume?
My friend did. Yeah, okay. She's a dressmaker. So I had one that was bought just off of like Amazon, and then I thought, no, this needs to be tidied up a bit, and it didn't have any pubic hair, and I wanted it to be like as anatomically correct as it could be, because I make jokes about pubes, because pubes is a big anxiety for women coming into clinic. Like, women often apologise, I'm sorry, I haven't had time to tidy up. It's a thing that stops women from seeking help because they've got their period, or they have pubic hair and they think they shouldn't, or they don't have pubic hair and they think they should. It's really strange. That's what I mean about using humour. So when a woman says that to me, I'm sorry, I didn't have time to do whatever it is, then I, by reflex, say, don't worry about that. Neither did I.
Oh, that's great.
Nobody cares. We care that you're here. Like, it's good that you're in clinic. The rest of it, nobody cares.
Yeah. It's so funny that people feel like medical people are going to judge them too, right? Like, I mean, maybe they are, but like, they're not going to, that's not what a pelvic floor physio is looking at, right? Like what you're assessing is, I'm assuming, has nothing to do with that. It's more like the muscle strength or whatever. I don't know how you do that, but like, it's whatever. You're not looking at if they got a Brazilian or if, like, that's sort of like secondary. So I love that. So I guess what would you say are like the messages that you're trying to teach women? I mean, you may have already said them, but with like, what's the thrust of gusset grippers, and what are you hoping women leave, like a few things that they leave understanding?
I want them to know what normal is and what it's not. That it's not normal to wet yourself or poo yourself or have painful sex and just be miserable about your genitals. And I wanted them to know the words, because there's so many euphemisms for vagina and vulva, and I collect them because I'm attempting to write a book. So I've got decades worth of like cutesy terms, or some of them aren't very cute, that women have used to describe their own genitals, and some of them are really funny. Some of them are brutal but funny.
Yeah.
So I thought, that'll work for the book. I can put them in the front plate and the back plate. So that if you only know words that are slang terms, and you think there's a problem with one bit of your vulva, you're not going to go to your GP and say, hey, doctor, I think there's a problem with my, I don't know, flap.
Right.
It's a barrier to help seeking. They need to know the words. Otherwise, they feel stupid or too embarrassed.
Yeah.
A lot of women, they just go like down below.
Oh, a lot of
don't
down
have
there
the language.
stuff. Yeah.
And there's a government study from a couple of years ago here that shows that 50% of UK women don't know with confidence which is the vulva and which is the vagina. Like, what are we doing? These are adult women that are out functioning in society. They're perfectly capable of understanding. It's just that we don't make it clear. It's not their fault.
Yeah. That's one of my pet peeves. When you're a sort of a science or medical person and you spend a lot of time around stand-ups, because a lot of stand-ups will say, they'll talk about, this is crazy, but this is how pedantic I am. I'm just going to expose how pedantic of a person I am. But like, they'll talk about a vagina when they mean a vulva, or they'll like on stage, like, and I'll just be like, that's not your vagina.
Yeah.
Like but anyway, I'm like, technically that's your vulva, but it's something that I agree, like, people don't know. Doesn't really matter for the joke, although it will kill any joke for me if people are not medically accurate. But
it's the vulva police.
It's my mission. I'm across the pond, so I can do it over here. You can do it over there. Okay, well, I love it. It's interesting what you said about people knowing what's not normal, because I mean, your statistics are that actually it is normal to be. A lot of women are incontinent. A lot of women, apparently our vaginas are just falling out everywhere, and apparently that's almost like, if it's happening to half of the women,
well, that means it's common.
Not normal, but common. Okay.
The function, you shouldn't put up with it no matter. It's not unusual for women to think, well, I'm 70 and I've had 4 kids and one of them came out backwards, so I was ripped from one end to the other. Of course, this is what's going to happen to me. I just have to put up with it. And it's categorically and scientifically untrue. Even people that have got like neurological disorders, if they've got multiple sclerosis or they've had a stroke, they can always have their situation improved. Like, that's what continence nurses are doing a lot of work on, trying to optimize whatever that person has in the way of function, so that they're able to, go out, because it stops them from going out, and that really bothers me.
Yeah, no, it's good. So no, I mean, I think you're right. Common, but not normal. But I think normalizing talking about it, or normalizing saying, hey, you can get help, or hey, like, lots of women are going through this, it's a good mission. Okay. So now I'm going to fast forward. There's so many things I want to ask you. I find it fascinating, but you have another show that you did is it 2023 at the Fringe?
Yes.
Okay, and that it's kind of what you were just talking about, but it's Viva Your Vulva, the whole story.
Because that was about the data that had come out, about 50% of women not knowing the difference between your vulva and your vagina. And I'd sort of trialled it the year before, because that was the end of lockdown, and about 6 weeks before, in fact, probably even less than that, there was a big question about, was the Fringe going to happen? Was it not? Because it was still social distancing, and what would people do? How would it actually work? And because I'm local, I knew that I could do a show that would be a walking tour. So I made because then you're outside, so you don't need to worry about COVID restrictions.
Yeah.
You need to worry about the rain, because it's Edinburgh in the summer, so it's going to rain. I worked out a route that was a vulva shape on the map, and places that I could stop and talk about the different anatomical features that you would find in a vulva. So I was so pleased with myself, because I had so much fun thinking, what can I do to describe the clitoris? And there's a bit in the old town of Edinburgh. I don't know if you know Edinburgh, but like the old town's the medieval bit and the new town's the new bit, which is older than Canada.
Yeah. Actually, I have been there twice, and it did make me laugh when they're like, that's the new bit. And I was like, Still pretty old, but yeah, okay.
So there's a little statue to a dog in the old town called Greyfriars Bobby, and he was a little dog that was a little loyal dog that sort of slept in his dead owner's grave for years, and the
Oh,
local
yeah.
people looked after him. I think it was about the 1700s or something that the wee dog story happened. So there's a little statue to Greyfriars Bobby. Greyfriars is the church that he slept in and became a sort of resident of. And the tourists rub his nose for luck, which
Okay.
the council would like them to stop doing it because it's damaging the statue. But when you're walking past, you can see all the tourists just going to Bobby's nose. So I thought that's perfect for demonstrating the clitoris, talking about the clitoris, because
Gives it a little
everybody
rub.
gives it a rub, and they're often not very. They shouldn't be rubbing it that way because
Yeah.
you're damaging his nose. So I stopped there and then was like, so we're going to talk about the clitoris and explain about the link with wee Bobby. There's a couple of places that the door handles look like vulvas, and there's a building that's got like two like Grecian urns carved into the side of it. So I talked about jugs there because I had a bit about breasts in it at that time.
Yeah.
Because breasts are the fourth biggest barrier to exercise for women because bras are rubbish. So duh, obviously. That's why a lot of women don't run, because their boobs are smacking around. So if you got a decent bra, then that would fix the problem. But bras aren't scientific. So anyway. So I did that walking tour and it worked. And I thought, actually, this could work as a stage show. I'll tidy it up and turn it into a static thing. And my friend made me a big board with magnetic bits. So it was pubic hair that was attached onto magnets. So I could just click it on and built a vulva.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like the walking tour. I think you should keep doing it for tourists. I think it'd be hilarious.
It was so much fun. I had a tabard that was building the vulva. So every time I stopped at a place, like, here's the clitoris.
This is brilliant.
It was fun.
I know. I mean, I know you have a day job, but I'm like, you should do that. It would be like a tourist. I feel it would be like a tourist attraction.
The great Fanny of Edinburgh.
Yeah, I think it'd be amazing because I think I did a walking tour in Edinburgh when I was there. I like to do that when I go somewhere because I can like get oriented and look around.
I'll take you around.
Okay. All right. I'm coming. I just want to give a quick shout out to our season 5 sponsor, Scribenote. Scribenote is the first AI scribe in veterinary medicine, and it's amazing. If you are not using an AI scribe, you guys, you got to get on it. Check out Scribenote. Scribenote was founded in March 2023. It's a pretty amazing story. Katie is a veterinarian. Her brother Ryan, who's an engineer, was following her around at work, and he recognized, hey, you vets, you're so inefficient. You're doing everything twice, sometimes 3 times. Let me help you with that. I've used Scribenote in the exam room. I'll just bring it into the room as an app on my phone, and I just let the clients know, and then I can talk to it and basically tell Scribenote what I'm finding during my physical exam. It records it, it summarizes it, it's all there. If I have to hop to another appointment right away, it doesn't matter. I don't have to worry about remembering it all. Scribenote's got me covered. It's also been fantastic for me for when I'm calling a client and I need to record that conversation because, you know, we got to record everything now. If I have a 20-minute conversation, after that, I have another 20 minutes of typing. But now, no more because of Scribenote. So thanks, Scribenote. Everybody check it out. I promise it'll make your life better. They have already helped with 2 million notes to date. That's millions and millions and millions of minutes that we get back. Thanks, Scribenote. Okay, so I want to talk a bit about, because I know this is what, I don't know, there were so many reasons I wanted to meet you, but you're doing research into using humor to, I guess, communicate to clients. Is that the best way to say it? I don't know if you can talk a little bit about that because I find it really fascinating.
Yeah, so that came out of getting into trouble. So some of my professional peers thought that it was fundamentally unprofessional to make jokes about pelvic floors. And also the guidelines here, the NICE guidelines, which is the research body that the NHS guidelines are all built on, they state that if you're going to teach a woman pelvic floor exercises, you should do an internal, because lots of women bear down instead of pulling up when they're doing a pelvic floor contraction. And I felt quite strongly that that would just indicate that they've not been educated about what they're supposed to be doing properly. Like the problem's not her, she's not stupid. It's not that she doesn't know the difference between up and down. It's that the instruction that she's being given is unclear.
Okay.
So it really annoyed me that this was in the guidelines because it's patronising, infantilising women And actually, it's not recognizing that this is our problem, not theirs.
Okay. So
And
you're like saying you have to do a pelvic exam while they're doing it. It's really to
I'm
make sure
saying you
your
need to-
instructions are good, not that,
yeah,
right? It's to make sure that you've communicated it properly, not that they are
yeah.
Okay. Okay.
But as it's my professional peers that disagree, and
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
with power and influence in professional bodies, then me going, hang on, was just unheard. So I thought, they're wrong. You can explain it perfectly adequately, and you don't need to do an internal, because there's lots and lots of women don't want internals, and all you're doing is reducing your reach, and we've got all these pishy women. This is ridiculous. So when the outcome of gusset grippers was that they would be able to leave knowing what a pelvic floor was and how to do a pelvic floor contraction.
Okay.
So obviously I wasn't doing internals from the stage, so some of my professional peers were very unhappy about. And also my language was very direct, by which I mean vulgar, and they objected to that. It all got out of hand, and I landed up having to do like I don't know if you have the equivalent in Canada, but we can do like a request to see all the data that's held by a body about us.
Okay.
And when I got everything back from this organisation, they had first complained about me in 2013 because the Fringe show did well. It got a bit of press, and I landed up on a big radio programme here, Women's Hour, which is like a flagship programme on Radio 4. And I said fart to Dame Jenny Murray, who hosted the show. And my peers were unhappy that I said fart on the radio.
But
the reason I said fart is because if you can hold in a fart, that is you working your pelvic floor. It's a key word, and it's a word that everybody understands. Yeah. It's a vulgar word, but I would argue and have argued that it's an appropriate word because it's effective. If you are told to hold in a fart, you don't bear down, you pull up.
Oh.
So then you don't need to do an internal. You just need to get your words right.
And it's about communication, right? That's what it's about.
So because I got into trouble, and it all got settled because, as long as I can argue my case and answer to it, then there isn't an issue. But I thought I need a reference for everything that I say. So I landed up doing some research with Monash University in Melbourne into using humour as a health promotion tool. So when I say I did it with them, I did do it, but the stuff that I wrote didn't land up in the paper because academia is quite hard. Yeah. I did the work and I wrote the stuff, and they're like, good effort.
We'll just take this.
They were so nice about it. They're like, yeah, this isn't your skill. So they tidied it up into a really, and I think it's an interesting paper, but it's got words in it that I'd never heard of. Oh. Like, I'm down as the author, and I've never heard of salutogenic. I've never heard of that word.
No,
it's like in the environment that you work in. Anyway, so it got published about ways that humour had been used with good effect. And then I did a thing online, Dry by Christmas, where I was tweeting to remind women to do their pelvic floor exercises, because if you do them 3 times a day for 3 months, 3/4 of women get dry. So I was nudging on social media. And an academic at Bournemouth University took all of that data, and she published that because it showed that it worked. So now I'm kind of bulletproof. I have references. As long as you've got references, you can do what you like, right?
I just have a question, and maybe you don't know. Were these men or women that were complaining, or both?
They were women.
They were women.
I think the problem is that because they had spent a lot of time deciding what the correct approach is to all of these problems, and they had looked at all of the data and they'd worked really hard, and what they were doing was, academically solid. And then I come in a Fanny suit saying far all over the place. Like, it's a bit left of field, and they weren't comfortable with it. They didn't come and see the show. They just criticised it. Like, that's lazy.
Yeah, I mean, I see what you're saying. And I mean, nothing like what you're doing, but when I was a surgery resident, I used to always put jokes in all my talks. And actually, I still do if I do any kind of academic lecture. But I was a resident. So I had one faculty member who kept saying, like, you can't do that. It's not professional. And I was like, I didn't listen. But because I was like, no, humor and storytelling is how we reach people. Like, that's how you teach. That's how you reach people. Like, just showing data, like, it doesn't reach people. It's boring. People can't focus. It's just, so I just believe that really strongly. So, and you're going to reach different people. Like, you're going to reach people that they're
Exactly.
not reaching. So ultimately, what do you want, right? Like, you want women to stop peeing themselves.
We all want the same thing. So,
Yeah.
but some people just are very comfortable in the way that they approach issues, and good for them. But I'm not doing it.
It's interesting.
It's not funny, Phil.
It's not funny. You can't make it funny. I'm gonna pivot to something funnier. Let's go to a clip.
I'm a physiotherapist, and my postgrad's in sports medicine, like all physiotherapists. But I gave up a career spent travelling the world, being paid to touch young fit men. Mainly because I'm an idiot, but also because I had 3 babies who were all blessed with heads, and I ruined my undercarriage, reduced it to rubble, and what a mess. See, after that, the science of incontinence and the wonders of the pelvic floor were fascinating to me. So I brought you a pelvic floor to look at. Truth be told, I brought 2, but you're only seeing 1. So the white bit should be vaguely familiar if you've ever gone out on Halloween. That's a pelvis, and the red bits are muscles, and the blue bits are ligaments, and the pink bits you should also be kind of able to recognise, because you're either sitting on a vulva or you came out of one. Now, this is a female pelvis. Well, it's representation. Either that is, a 9-year-old that I've done a mischief to. Men do have pelvic floors as well, I know, and stuff goes wrong with them as well, and you need to know about that because it does weird stuff to you too. I mean, I went all pishy, and guys do too, but generally men aren't so bothered by their incontinence. It's really amazing. You just embrace the skid marks and it doesn't bother you. But when when your willies stop working, that upsets me. And eventually a man will take himself to the GP to cry and say my cock's broken. Whereas women are the other way around. We get upset about wetting ourselves but don't really mind that we never had an orgasm since we had the babies. It's like men are from Mars, women are from Venus, we're all different. Anyway, the function of your muscles is to lift and kind of stop your guts from falling out, and that's quite important. It has to resist all the forces from above, like your intra-abdominal pressure is the technical term for it, and that's what happens when you laugh or cough or sneeze, and when it pushes down, these wee muscles should push up, and that keeps you dry. That's quite good. You'll know if you've got a problem with your pelvic floor because you've been pushing yourself laughing all night.
Thank you for sharing that clip. I loved it. Could you just describe how to do a Kegel? Like,
yes,
that's it. In a funny or not funny way, whatever you prefer.
Well, I think the way your pelvic floor job is to squeeze and lift. So if you think about your bum hole and you imagine that you've got a fart brewing and you don't want to let the fart out, then when that action that you do to keep the fart in is you work in your pelvic floor. But sometimes women need a bit of visualization to get a decent contraction. So if you imagine that you are in a lift and you're going to fart, then everybody squeezes a little bit harder. Okay. But now imagine that you're in a lift and you can feel this fart brewing and the lift is busy, but you know what you ate last night and you know it wasn't pretty. And this fart is going to be nasty. So then people squeeze a bit more. And now imagine that in the lift, there is your mother-in-law, your boss, and your secret crush. And they're all going to know it was you, and the fart is going to be horrific, and people will be pawing the walls to escape. Okay. That feeling of squeezing and lifting your bum hole is a pelvic floor contraction. And you should be able to hold that for a count of 10.
10.
And then 10.
I've been trying to do it while you're talking.
If you can do it for 10, there's a reflex inhibition of the urge to pee, so it can buy you more time if you're bursting for a pee. If you can squeeze it for 10, it reduces the urge. So just going up and down on your tiptoes, but that's a bit weird in the supermarket queue. Okay. So when you let go, you should feel it going into your pants. Like you should actually feel something let go. And if it doesn't, if you can't feel it relax, then either you're not strong enough to hold it for 10 and it's just gradually eased off, or it's too tight to relax and it's not relaxing properly, or just need a bit of practice, or it's weird because you're following this in a podcast and it's peculiar.
Yeah. And then how many times you have to do it 3 times a day, but how many times how many Kegels is like a time? You know what I mean? Like
One.
Just one.
Yeah, one contraction. So you do that 1 10-second contraction and then do 10 quick ones, because that one will buy you time if it's a big queue for the toilet, but not if you laugh or cough or sneeze. So for it, you have to go, oh, I'm going to fart. Oh, no, it's going away. Oh, I'm going to fart. Oh, it's all right. It's going away. And you do that 10 times at that sort of speed. And then the joke is that once you get to my level, you can do it without lifting your eyebrows. Because all the women do this.
Yeah.
Don't know why.
Yeah. Oh, no, it's funny. I find even if you just say Kegel on stage, you can tell people are like,
yeah,
they're doing one.
it's a lot of frowning at me.
Yeah, they're like doing it. Okay, what do you think about the perifit? Do you know what the perifit is? Do you have that?
I do. Yeah, I do. I love that you made a joke about that. I think that, so there's no evidence that gadgets are better than just doing the exercises, but some of them, I think the act of buying one is really good, and gamifying it is genius, because people that game are going to love these gadgets that squeeze. There's another one that works in Bluetooth. I think the perifit might work in Bluetooth as well. Yeah. Just the concept of that being hacked is just hilarious.
Yeah, no, it's true. I did buy one. I bought one. I don't even know why I bought it. I wasn't really it got in my head during the pandemic. I was like, am I going to be incontinent? And I got really stressed about it. Just kept getting these ads. I mean, my phone must know my age. And it was like, you're going to die alone and you're going to, pee yourself all the time. So I got one, and I did it for a while, but then I didn't. And you're going to remind me to.
Yeah.
Kegels.
Some people love that. Some people love apps. Some people love, setting themselves timers or making it into a habit. Is a really difficult thing to get like one solution for everybody. Just doesn't exist. Some people love their gadgets, especially if they're a bit competitive and they can see it in their phone. You can see the results. Yeah, it's great. It's cool.
Do you want to hear my joke? One of my jokes?
Yes, please.
I was like, well, because I was like, it does tell you like your score or whatever. And so I like to say, I go, oh, at one point I got really good. And then I say my vaginal agility score, which I like to call my vagility score. And then I say it was in the 94th percentile, and then everyone claps. So I'm like, yeah, thank you. So
you deserve a round of applause. 94, everyone that's very good.
Everyone loves it. But it's interesting what you were saying about your whole show is about that. So you're going to have lots of women coming up to you. But even if a part of a set, I find if I talk about incontinence, the perifit, menopause, hot flashes, like what happens to your body during perimenopause. I have a joke where I say it's very poorly understood because no one cares. And then I just keep going. And like women come and find me after, and they're like, please keep making jokes about perimenopause. Like they're like, and then like some of them are really intense. Like I had this one was like, you have to. And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
But it's like this intensity of like, we need this out there. We need people joking about it. We need to talk about it because no one is. And I do agree. Humor is the way to go with this, because it's
if you can make it funny, then they'll talk about it. It sort of gives you permission almost. And there's so much humour in it.
Yes.
Because it's a shared, so it's almost like a treasure trove comedy, because it's an experience that lots and lots and lots of people understand. If you've got a mixed audience in a comedy club and 50% of them get the joke because they're female and you're talking about a female experience, and then they start laughing, it gets like, you don't need that many people to get it, to build that was a joke, and then the rest of them pay attention and then they get it.
And
it's
I find
there's a
little bit of a gift of, I'm sure you kind of alluded to it, but like, and something I'm trying to do in my comedy is like, there's just so few women on the set list, right? And so women love comedy, and women are coming out to comedy, and they're sitting through like porn, like men talking about porn and women and dating, and it's often quite misogynistic, right? And so it's like, that's not for them, that's not for them, that's not for them. And then you get up and say, hey, like I bought a perifit, and like you start talking about perimenopause, and they're like, this is for me. Like, I don't know. I think that's untapped in comedy also. Like it's coming, but I feel like it's untapped. And I'm trying to create a show in Ottawa called the Women's Monthly, which is like, it's not just women. Again, I don't want to tiptoe into the whole, who am I excluding or including? Like, I just am like, this is just highlighting women. Women don't get as much stage time. Women aren't getting, promoted as headliners as much. And the goal is actually, it's more curating the audience of like, my first show was like just a bunch of groups of women drinking white wine. And I was like, this is amazing. Like, I was like, it was a totally different vibe. So yeah, I was interested in you saying that women were coming up to you and like sharing stuff with you, because I've had that experience as well, that women are like, they talk of, I bought a perifit, but I'll ask at the beginning, does anyone know what a perifit is? And no one will say anything. But then after they'll be like, I bought one. I was like, okay. Yeah.
And the men's reaction is often interesting because, if straight men are interested in women's genitals. So if you're making jokes about it, they are going to lock in and listen. Mainly because they're hoping to crowdsource some information that they can use for a purpose.
Yeah, because if women don't even know what's their vulva and their vagina, how the hell are men? Like, it's not even, how would men know? It's not their body part, right? So...
No, and most men are, kind and good and would like to be a good lover. So the more information they can get, which they're not going to get this information from porn, which is the only tool that we leave them with, which is not very helpful. So if we want to improve women's sexual experiences and they're straight women, then the men need a bit more information.
All right.
It's not their fault. God love them. So together we're going to fix.
We're going to fix this.
Heterosexual men's knowledge of.
We will help them understand with your walking tour, your amazing walking tour. That I'm going to come to Edinburgh and go on the vulva vagina walking tour. Okay, I was wondering, you said you're writing a book. I'd love to hear a little bit about that.
It's the Viva Your Vulva show. So a guide to what's in your pants, what is normal. Okay. So start off at the pubes and finish off at the bum hole, and examine each bit and what's its evolutionary purpose, and what is normal and what's not, and then an analysis of why nobody taught you this stuff in the first place, because it's ridiculous.
And is this so are you trying to be funny, or what are you trying to do in your book?
Bits of it are supposed to be funny. So my aim is to make people either laugh or be furious on the page from what they learn, because it is outrageous. Like, women know more about the phones than they do about their own body. This is not okay. Women know more about the settings on their dishwasher and their washing machine and what to do with chicken breasts than they know about what is in their pants.
Right.
This is it's a social issue, and it's a feminist issue. We need to educate women much better. Otherwise, harm comes. If you don't know that a little white patch on your vulva could be vulval cancer, then you're not going to go and speak to your GP about it. And if you don't know to ever look, you're never going to find the patch. So then what happens? Like, actual harm happens to women. So that's not very funny. But there's like cartoons, and some of it is just fundamentally funny. Like queefing is funny. Fanny farts. That is just, it's just farts are funny.
But embarrassing.
That's
too,
official,
right?
Right.
Yeah. Officially funny thing. But if someone experienced that and wasn't totally, I don't know. Can't think of a scenario. I've been married for so long. With someone new,
doing yoga.
You could be, or doing yoga. Yeah, like that is. I mean, even farting during yoga is embarrassing. I find it hilarious when someone farts, but in yoga but it's really embarrassing. Like, so yeah. But yeah, queefing is objectively funny. I agree with you, but it may not be to the person that's doing the queefer. No. Yeah. Maybe not at the time. So yeah.
But if you explain that it's not like what it is and why it happens, and this is how you can address it, and if that doesn't work, here's where you can get help, then that's okay. It becomes like they take the power out of the anxiety, or the thing that causes anxiety.
No, I love that. So, I hope. And where is your book at? Is it like in the writing stages? Is it?
Yeah, I'm very slow. The problem is there's so much to say. Like, I wrote the chapter in pubic hair and it's 32,000 words. Like, that's too many words. I know. It's a lot. It's too many words. Too many words.
But too many words is better than not enough words. Right? Because you can cut things. You can get an editor.
So the narrative is that women remove their pubic hair, and this is a terrible thing because we should all embrace our natural stuff. And, it's oppression that women are removing their pubic hair. And I disagree, because in clinic, not all women remove their pubic hair. And if a woman wants to do that, then that is her choice, and go her. Like, who cares? It's your body, your choice. That applies to pubes too. And I knew that in Egyptian and Roman times that hair removal was a thing. And as in Islam, they've removed their body hair and have done for a couple of thousand years. So it's not new. So I was looking like how far back can I find examples of body hair removal in the literature. And before you know it, you've got tens of thousands of words, all of which are very interesting. But
wasn't
too
it?
many
I think
words
on my walking tour of Edinburgh, I learned about the merkin.
Is that right? Did you?
I think so, because of pubic lice. Wasn't this right?
Yeah.
there was
yeah,
like
that would
a
be
lot of
right.
pubic lice, so people lost their pubic hair, but then the rich people, tell me if I'm just remembering this
No,
wrong.
you're right.
But then I
You're
thought the
totally
rich
right.
people, they got like a wig, a pubic hair wig called a merkin.
That's right.
To-
So the first recorded use of that word was in 1460 or something. And the reason that it became commonplace was because in Edinburgh there was a lot of brothels. Like, there was no healthcare system, there was no benefit system. So there was a lot of women were sex workers. And there's a guy that mapped them. And there's an old book that's still in print that you can get, where he basically did like a customer review of all of these prostituted women. I know.
Oh.
And I think that's 1700 and something. So you're right, it was lice and syphilis, because one of the effects of early stage syphilis is it makes your hair fall out. So the rich men who were using these prostituted women, the women used pubic wigs to try and cover up the symptoms of syphilis.
Yeah.
And their wives were removing their pubic hair to reduce lice. So then they were using merkins. And you get fancy ones. They had little diamonds or jewels, and you get proper fancy ones. There's a myth that that's where beaver comes from as a slang term for women's fanny, because the beaver pelt was used as a merkin, but it's not true. It was horse. They don't really know because they haven't been preserved for history, but a lot of it was human hair, like hair or animal hair, but beaver pelts. Was the timing of it? There's nobody's found a reference that shows that they were using beaver pelts, because why would they? Like, you could use a rabbit here instead of having to travel between North America to Scotland in the 1500s. Like, there wasn't a lot of that going on.
No.
So apparently it comes from a song. A guy had a song in the 1920s where it was like a voyeurism song. So he was telling the story about being in a bathhouse and peeking through the keyhole, and he thought he saw a beaver, but it was a woman. So
it's okay. It's funny that you bring this up. Everything happening politically right now, Canada and the United States. I'm quite involved. I'll just say I'm quite involved, and my friend helped me make shirts, and they say "hands off our beaver." And they've got a beaver, So it's part of the whole elbows up movement, are protecting our sovereign nation of Canada. So anyway, so it makes me laugh. That was just reference to Donald Trump saying he grabs women by the pussy, right? And then so I've sort of translated that.
Your beaver bites back.
Our beaver bites back. Yes. Yeah. Anyway, that's funny. You just made me think of that. Okay, and now you're also starting a podcast on, is it humor in healthcare or?
Supposed to be. The challenge is tech is not my skill. I can do the content. I'm really interested in the fun. This stuff is not fun. Dealing with people's pain and misfortune is not fun. But looking at how healthcare professionals use, or anybody uses, humour in order to generate attention or for political purposes, or people are very creative, and especially online, like people are making memes and YouTubes and doing animations and things like that. Some of it is absolutely genius. And they're not people that have been to film school, they've just got something to say and to learn how to do the tech. So I'd like to explore that and see the different ways that people are using what used to be a political tool, like satire, but has grown up with politics. There's always been people poking fun at politicians, and I think the politicians become a little bit too thin-skinned, and they need to retain their skills of being robust, then we maybe get better legislation.
Yeah, okay, well, that's cool. I look forward to those things. Thank you for all your time, and it's been really amazing talking to you. I just have I have two questions, but I think I know the answer to one. My two last questions, they're always the same. So you're so intertwined with what you're doing. So that's why I said I think I know the answer. But if you could just do comedy full time and stop being a pelvic floor physiotherapist, and you'd make the same amount of money, but you would be, all your energy would now be towards the book, podcasting, stand-up comedy, fringe shows. Would you do that, or would you continue to kind of have this dual life?
No, I think I would treat populations instead of individuals. I think nobody's doing it. They're not doing it effectively. I think I would, if I had to make a choice, or if I could make the choice, I think I would drop clinic, because other people can do that. Other people can deal with the one-to-one women and do it really well. But I think I've got an unusual skill mix. So I would give up clinic and do the remote stuff.
Bigger picture.
Pull them into clinic. Yeah, I would.
Okay. Yeah, because if they never go to clinic, like if they don't know you're there, no one's going to get help. And I
Yeah.
just have to reiterate again that 50% of women over 50 have
If you
a
get a
prolapsed vagina.
dragging feeling towards the end of the day, if you have problems with peeing and pooing, if you have pain and penetration, go and see a doctor. Get
Okay.
doing your pelvic floor exercises. Don't put up with it.
All right. Okay. And now we're at this is wild. That's wild. I'm gonna be telling people that statistic like
I'll
everyone.
send you the references.
Okay, I would love that. Okay, the last question is I've been trying to get Ken Jeong to come on my podcast. It's not gone well. Here we are, season 5. Still asking Ken. I got close last season, didn't get it. But could you we make a whole compilation at the end. Could you just invite Ken Jeong, just as if you're just talking to Ken, could you invite him to come and be a guest on Co-Medicine for me?
I've heard you ask this of guests before, and I was going to Google to see who he is because I think I might be unique, but I'm not altogether sure who he is. Like, I know from what you've said that he's a medic turned comedy actor, and I gather that he's had massive success, but he hasn't fallen across my path. So I think that he should be chatting up your door. Like,
We're going to turn it around on Ken.
I think he's been a bit uppity, like just not responding. You
Well,
don't need him.
I would
You're
say
in your 5th series.
Come on,
This is going
Ken.
well.
Okay, so your tactic, I would say, is like he needs more exposure.
Yeah,
because you don't know who he is.
I don't know who he is. I
Okay.
think I do, but I'm not convinced.
You're not 100% sure. Yeah.
I wonder if it's my age group though, because I'm 53 and I think I missed the films that he was involved in because I think I was losing my mind because I had too many small
'Cause you have
children. I think I
babies.
missed it.
Yeah, I think it could have been around your baby time. The Hangover was that was probably like his.
Yeah,
that
like
one.
I know about the film, but I've never seen it. You lose
Okay.
a chunk when the kids are little. Like
Of your
I
life,
would have
yeah.
no idea who was
What
in
happened.
the Oscars, and I'm
Okay.
quite relaxed about not knowing Ken Jeong because he should know who you are. So he's clearly a fool.
Okay. All right, Ken. That's there's been many tactics that has been used before. That tactic by one of my
Go and
colleagues.
impress some random Scottish woman by
Yeah.
coming on your podcast.
There you go. There you go. Okay. Well, I took up more of your time than I said. Thank you so
That's
much for
been
being on the
lovely.
podcast. It's been amazing to meet you.
Really nice to meet you.
And I am going to I want to come over. So I'm going to try. I applied for the Manchester Women's Festival.
Did you?
Yeah. I mean, I'll find out. This will be embarrassing because by the time this comes out, I'll find out I didn't get it. But anyway, I'm going to look you up if I get over there.
Yeah, let me know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Manchester's
Okay.
not far away.
It's not far. Nope. I love it. Okay. All right. Thank you for being on Co-Medicine, Elaine.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
And that wraps up another episode of Co-Medicine. Thank you so much for listening. It is great having you here. If you have been listening to Co-Medicine from the beginning, thank you. If you're new to Co-Medicine, thank you and welcome to our Co-Medicine community. It is wonderful to have you here. I want to just give a shout out to Mark Edwards, who wrote the music for Co-Medicine. He's a comedian, an actor, a musician. He's going to be famous, you guys. And then you'll be like, is that the same Mark Edwards? And I'll be like, yeah. He's my friend, you guys. I know him. And he wrote the song. He's amazing. Also, big shout out to Dustin Bays. Thank you for editing the show and producing it. I appreciate you because I don't know how to do that stuff and I don't want to learn. Yes, it's willful ignorance, I think, at this point, but I'm so glad Dustin is here with me, helping me out with the show. And thank you for being here. If you enjoyed this episode, please like it, share it, do all the things, review it. If you're a sponsor or a potential sponsor, call me. That would be great. If you don't like the show, I don't know why you're still here.